All right. Never in all my years working on Wall Street and then covering Wall Street have I spent a weekend speaking privately to so many majors, investors, and C-suite executives about a single event, each one with extremely strong views and major stakes, each person desperately looking for any answers or clues or clarity. And there was one thing they were all looking for: hope, because underneath they actually believe in the strength of the economy. But what they didn't get was clarity, not from Trump's team on TV yesterday or today, or from Trump himself. Take a look.
When do you think the market might turn around?
It's finding a bottom now. It's finding a bottom now.
What I've been very impressed with is the market infrastructure, that we had record volume on Friday, and everything is working very smoothly.
You know, our country was the strongest, believe it or not, from 1870 to 1913. You know why? It was all tariff-based. We had no income tax.
There's going to be plenty of jobs for robots, plenty of jobs for humans. I'm telling you, Laura, this is going to be a golden age.
And let's be clear, we created income tax in 1913 so wealthy people would pay it, because the tariffs were strangling the poor and the middle class. And as for Scott Bessent being happy that the market worked on Friday, I don't even know what to say. But you know what we didn't get? Almost any of the big CEOs standing up and speaking out. While they know exactly the risks ahead, their risk models have calculated that the risk of speaking publicly and saying anything that could upset the president is greater. And that silence is deafening. It shows that a fear of the president's wrath and a loss of trust in the rule of law, and if businesses or foreign countries cannot trust our leadership, I can promise you the cost will be far greater and longer lasting than the market losses we've seen in the last few days. Bharat, Ron, Charlotte are still here. Charlotte, you were mentioning Bill Ackman before, that he actually posted on Twitter we could face a nuclear economic winter. But I want to share what he said in December. Watch this.
We're stepping into, I would say, the most pro-growth, pro-business, pro-American administration I've perhaps seen in my my adult lifetime, certainly. I would say everyone is incredibly enthusiastic, really about a new administration that's about efficiency, removing the impediments to growth, deregulation. President Trump will do nothing that interferes with the success of the country, the success of the economy.
Yikes. Hope you didn't bet on that. Jamie Dimon, J.P. Morgan's CEO, told shareholders in a letter that these tariffs are going to boost inflation and slow an already weakening U.S. economy. But I want to share what he said back in January.
Yeah, look, I look at tariffs. They are an economic tool. If it's a little inflationary, but it's good for national security, so be it. I mean, get over it.
So be it. Get over it. A lot's changed in a few months.
Yeah, I don't think that this is what Jamie Dimon or Bill Ackman thought they were signing up for.
Why? It's what Donald Trump promised. So why on earth didn't the biggest brains in finance think this was going to happen? Because they thought they had him in his pocket?
I think there are a few things going on, and you see this amazing optimism, delusional optimism, it looks like now, right? They hoped that they would have deregulation. We have not seen much of that. They hoped they would have a big tax cut. Right. And that is what they are still hoping for, and what explains a lot, I think, is the main reason why we have seen executives be silent so far, is they don't want to anger Trump because they want to get that tax reform through to extend the 2017 tax cuts. Right. And so, you know, now we have a situation where the president himself has always been in favor of tariffs, as you've noted. He has different constituencies within his administration. You have Bessent, you have Peter Navarro, et cetera, who are saying slightly different things. But it all comes back to a president who fundamentally believes in tariffs without having, or at least without displaying, a deeper grasp of a substantive goal that might be achieved through this policy. And what you have instead is chaos.
There's also just this horrible misconception that 1870 to 1913 was the most prosperous time for the United States. First of all, it wasn't. We had a railroad crisis that toppled the stock market. We had panics. We had bank failures. We had the panic of 1907 that led to the creation of the Federal Reserve, coincidentally, also in 1913. And when you look at per capita GDP now, when you look at household net worth, when you look at the size of the economy, when you look at everything that the U.S. is enjoying today, 1870 to 1913 pales in comparison. So tariffs were not the only factor in anything having to do with American success prior to the two world wars. Most of our success, in fact, has come after World War II. The president doesn't seem to have caught on to that yet.
Well, I want to remember all the Wall Street investors, not just Bill Ackman, Bharat, who were giddy about Trump after the election. They deeply believed that oppressive wokeness and DEI policies were strangling their ability to focus or unleashing their best productivity and profitability. And I was remembering back today to an article in the Financial Times just a couple of months ago when one unnamed banker said he finally felt liberated because he can now use offensive slurs like the R word and the P word without getting canceled. My question to all those big time investors and bankers on Wall Street is, how's that liberation feeling for them now? What are your thoughts? You were someone who was part of the last administration, and you've had to sit here for the last couple of months hearing people talk about how strangled they were in the last administration, despite the fact that the economy grew and the stock market performed very well.
I really hope that Financial Times reporter goes back to that top banker and asks them whether the feeling of liberation and using those words is worth trillions of dollars in market cap and at a potential recession, which has been prompted by Donald Trump's policies. I'm curious whether that trade-off is worth it in his mind. But, you know, the thing that really jumps out to me is that, as you said, in the Biden administration, these CEOs and bank heads were not shy about calling out the slightest change in government policy that they thought was inconvenient to them. You know, slightly higher capital standards or making it slightly easier for workers to unionize. And they were vocal about how oppressive and unfair it was for the administration to be pursuing those goals. And now you have an administration which is pursuing a policy that has cost the economy and cost these people personally, collectively, hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, and you don't hear a peep out of them. And I think it just shows a real lack of courage and fortitude to stand up to somebody because they think that he can, get back at them. And frankly, it's disappointing, though I'm not that surprised.
But here's what I don't get, Ron. I get that they know how Donald Trump behaves and they might not want to face off against him. But if you're the 10 biggest CEOs in the country, why don't you get together and go to 5 Republicans in Congress and say, we're going to back you. As much money as you want, we are here to give it to you. They've got the money. Look how much they're losing in market cap right now, and say, you stand up to Trump on tariffs, you take the power back, and we've got your back. Why wouldn't they do that? Because the one group of people that can actually pull the power away from Trump here is Congress. Why wouldn't the CEOs go to them? They know them all.
I have no idea. I've never seen this much premature capitulation in my entire career. And I've been doing this for 41 years, and I've never seen business people and Congress people who are entirely afraid of standing up to the president, or even offering him, I should say, contradictory ideas to what he thinks is the right thing to do. Never in my career have I seen anything like this.
Yes, because never in your career have you covered a dictatorship. And I'm not saying we have one here, but Charlotte, that is how dictatorships rule. I remember years ago interviewing Steve Schwarzman. He said Blackstone didn't invest in Russia because they couldn't trust the rule of law. We are now inching our way towards that, where our counterparties or other countries or sovereign wealth funds are saying, we don't know what's happening in the United States, and Congress isn't setting the laws anymore. Everything is happening via executive order. We can't touch it. That has never happened in the United States before.
Yeah, I think it's entirely new territory.
And not a good territory.
Yeah, I think that people often try to imbue a certain moment in political history as being a turning point, right? You hear this in every single election, that this is the moment when our country will be on a new direction. This actually is a real turning point. This is new. This is entirely new, both in the way that the president is wielding his power and the direction in which he's trying to take the country. And so, I think that whether it's businesses, Congress, universities, law firms, everyone is trying to find their footing. And I don't see evidence that they have found it yet. People are wobbling, and it's not an environment that would inspire trust in America's trading partners.
Just a quick positive note.
Please.
Dow futures are up 750 points right now.
Do you know one of the reasons why?
Yes.
Because we're watching more and more stories come out that Howard Lutnick is on the ropes and Scott Bessent is in. And that's how closely tied Wall Street is to this, saying, please let the guy who understands economics, right? Politico reported just a couple hours ago, Scott Bessent flew down to Florida yesterday to talk to the president. It's the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight that Trump is growing weary of Howard Lutnick. And on Wall Street,
Elon Musk is asking him to roll back the tariffs.
Correct, but on Wall Street, they know exactly who Howard Lutnick is, right? He ran the most successful broker's broker. And I say this lovingly, but the way a broker's broker operates, you're lying to people on both sides of the phone. Like, that's how it works. And so we're looking at Dow futures up because they are betting the farm on Scott Bessent. Yep. And that's a lot of pressure for Scott, especially when you remember at the end of the day, this is Trump's trade war.